So a while ago, I got myself a copy of Hollow Knight, and it's just been sitting in my Steam library untouched. And I don't know about you, but I like my money, so I'm gonna be getting my money's worth by 100%ing this game. And no, I am not going for the easy 112 game file completion. I am going for the full Hollow Knight Steam achievement completion, which I would come to regret. Oh, very much. However, that is all behind me now, so here's my 100% completion of Hollow Knight. Oh, guess we're dead. So to start things off, we first arrive at Dirtmouth, where the only resident is Elderbug, which we say hi to, before we immediately jump into the well like any normal bug does. We arrive at the first area of the game, the Forbidden Crossroad. We test out if we can Mario jump, and we discover healing. Since this is the first time I'm playing this game, and left looks like it's gonna bring me down to the next area, I chose to go right to fully explore this first area. We meet a friend, his name is Koro, and he seems to be inspecting this egg for some reason. Probably won't be important. We continue right, practicing our movement and attack on these small enemies. Then we wander into a slightly bigger enemy. After defeating him, we discover he was guarding a grub, which is a collectible we will need to fully complete this game later on. For now, we free the grub and continue on with our journey. We continue exploring until we find an entrance into an area called the Crystal Peak. We discover a singing bug with some unique lyrics. By two, and then when you're done, let's be Huh? This is Maya. She sings about dead parents or something. I don't know, I kind of forgot. She has lore behind her. We never talk to Maya again. We do a quick turnaround out of the Crystal Peak since that seems like the next area to be explored. At this point, I didn't really know where to go, so we head to the left side where at the bottom, we meet a new bug named Cornifer. Cornifer is a Giga Chat. He sells you maps for each area, which is super useful. And his family life. He has a hot wife. We get our initial glance of the map, and with some guesswork, we discover the next area to explore. We get jumped by these flying bugs, but we took care of them pretty easily before we discovered this, I don't think we're allowed to show that. Attacking this bug reveals a boss battle. This is Gristmother, what I consider to be a mini-boss. Defeating her was relatively easy, however before we left, she had a little surprise for us. We find a bug that got a little drunk, his name is Sly. He says he's gonna return back up to Dirtmouth, so we're gonna go meet him up there later. After exploring around, we finally find the boss of this area. This is False Knight, first boss of Hollow Knight. He's pretty slow and really only has 3 movement options: Jump Slam, Jump Repositioning, and a Wooga Wooga. All his attacks are pretty easy to avoid, but it's a little hard to see since my hand's in the way. Sorry about that, I'll get rid of that in a sec. Unlike other enemies, however, False Knight doesn't give you any soul, the energy you need for healing, which is what makes this boss challenging. After smacking him around for a bit, his actual body falls out of the armor. Okay, now hear me out, guys. Attacking his body grants you soul, and after downing him 2 more times, we finish the boss fight. Following him down, we'll find that he is laying on the ground defeated. Attacking him grants us our victory, and along with that, we also get ourselves the city's crest, which we will be using later. Going down the path, we find ourselves a shady building, which we enter almost immediately. Inside, we find ourselves a shaman who offers to give us a spell. We take the spell, but as all things in life, nothing is free. So we are imprisoned and tasked with killing the rat in this man's attic. With the newly acquired vengeful spirits, we fireball the rats and are let free. Before we left, however, we did rob the man for imprisoning us and acquire our first charm, Soul Catcher. After all that, we find a note left by Cornifer, the Giga Chat. He has gone to map more maps of Hollowness and has opened shop in Dirtmouth, so we'll go check back on that right now. We arrive back at Dirtmouth to meet his
Bapanada.
Take my money. Take all my money. I might have spent all my geo trying to impress her, which would be a mistake later on since down the street is Sly, the drunk bug we helped earlier. He has opened shop and he is actually selling some pretty useful stuff like health and soul things. I'm not sure. However, we are poor from my financial decisions, but that's fine. We go back into the we go back into the mine and continue mining. My hand is blocking this, but we find another grub. We actually bought a pretty useful charm from Zelda, the Wayward Compass, which shows your location on the map, which would have saved us so much time. Eventually, we found a new area, the Stag Station, a passive zone with a bench and a bell that appears after you pay some geo. Ringing this bell calls to you the Stag Beetle. Oh wait, my bad. Let me try again. That's not his name. Ringing bell calls you the last Stag Beetle. Our Stag Beetle friend here doesn't need a name because he is him. He is the last Stag Beetle remaining. What does that mean? I have no idea. Our last Stag Beetle here is the quick travel of the game. Not knowing where I am on the map, I start back at Dirtmouth where I found where all the grubs have been going after I rescued them. Other grub here is filthy rich. He pays us for every one of his kids we find for him, which that's a lot of money. This man is loaded. Holy. Eventually, after exploring around, we found the next area, Green Path. Green Path isn't really the kindest to us, as this is where we get our first step of the game. You're now slightly nerfed, and where you have died, there is a shade which holds all your money. Killing your shade basically undoes your death, unless you die before you kill your original shade, in which case you lose all your money, which is kind of yikes, I can't lie. After we killed the shade, we found this other maxed bug. Our little short king can't really jump that high right now, so we have to go around and take the long way. Along the way, we found a man himself, Cornifer. We still don't have the compass to show our exact location on the map, but having a map to look at is way better than wandering around aimlessly. We also found ourselves this thing, which I thought was a boss fight, but no, it turns out it was just Professor Oak giving us our Pokédex. We see the masked bug from earlier, so we know we are heading the right way. Along the way, we also found ourselves a mini boss guarding our way. The boss handed us our second death to run. However, running it back a second time, it is our victory. This is also when I finally learned how to use the charm system and finally equipped the Wayward Compass. On our adventure, we found a man getting eaten alive, so we had to intervene. This is Zot the Mighty. It turns out, however, Zot was actually fine. He was actually having an honorable 1v1 with the fly until we interrupted. Sorry about that. On a side note, if you're currently playing Hollow Knight or are planning on playing Hollow Knight and you're planning on 100%ing the game, proceed with caution here. Not saving Zot here is an achievement and it leads to him dying, while saving Zot here leads to 3 other achievements. However, there's an in-game achievement that if you leave Zot to die here, it will make it slightly easier, and then you can just get the other achievements on a separate game file. Continuing on, we finally found the masked bug from earlier. Her name was Hornet and it was on site. Our first run was a complete wash, and our second wasn't much better. This boss fight wasn't actually that difficult. However, I didn't know there was a closer bench under the boss arena, so for each fight I had to run across the damn map to reach her arena, which led to us taking quite a bit of chip damage every time we fought her. The third run, however, we went in healthy and juiced up. Hornet is slightly faster than the other enemies up until now, but still relatively slow for the game as a whole. She has 3 primary attacks plus a bunch of mix-ups that makes her pretty damn hard to read at the start. She has a nail throw, which acts like a boomerang that comes back to her. She has a charge attack, which goes in a straight line when she does it on land and at an angle in air. And she has an explosion attack, which she can do on land or in air, which is kind of hard to read at first. Additionally, she likes to jump around the arena, and contact with the boss deals damage to you, so that's annoying. However, after learning to stay close to the ground and dodge only when I need to, we take care of Hornet with relative ease. After Hornet leaves, we pick up the Mothwing Cloak, which unlocks Stash. However, before we can do anything, 3 ghosts popped up, Flashbang does, and just left. I don't know what that was about. We continued on exploring Green Path, which is now 100 times easier. This dash is amazing. With the Wayward Compass, I began running into all the dark areas of the map that are still unexplored. That leads us to these 2 rats, which rewards us with the Baldur's Shell charm. We also do this parkour challenge, which gets us the Thorn of Agni charm. We unlock the Green Path Stag Station and go back up to Dirtmouth. This time, since I actually have money, we actually buy something from Sly. We buy from him 2 mass shards, which after collecting 4 of them gets you an HP up. Also, Zot has made it back to Dirtmouth safely. Hello there, my friend. Starting from the Green Path Stag Station, I eventually found the next area, the Fog Canyon. Except not really, since Queen Station is right at the bottom of it. Coral is here and he's kind of just aura farming as usual. Below him is our next Stag Station. Continue exploring until we found the next area to explore, the Fungal Waste. We fought 2 mushroom guys and they gave us a charm slot, which allows us to equip more charms. Our next find is Lake Eater. He sells really powerful charms that break upon death, so we come back to him later since at the time I'm also kind of poor, so. After much exploring of the Fungal Waste, we finally hear a familiar humming we loved so much. Cornifer! After this, I got a little lost, so much so I somehow ended up back at Green Path with a new mini boss. This bush thing is a mini boss and really only has 1 move, charge or charge over jump. I jump over him doing chip damage every time he charges me, and we beat him pretty easily. After this distraction, we finally end up in the next area, the Mantis Village. Here, there are a bunch of mantises who attack on sight. Our goal here is to flick all these levers that they are guarding to receive this new item, the Mantis Claw. This item allows us to wall slide and wall jump, which we use to immediately rob this Mantis Village blind. Like, holy hell, we took all their money. What is this? With the Mantis Claw, the previously unavailable parkour is now available. Slowly, we make our way through the parkour where we let down bridge 1, then bridge 2. At the end, it calls for a key where we put in the city's crest we got from False Knight. Entering the Raining Blue City, we found our good friend Coral. Going down this elevator reveals that this is the City of Tears. We head left, arriving at a nail shop where the nailsmith offers to upgrade our nail for 250 geo. The new nail now hits for 9 damage instead of 5. And now 2 hits most small bugs and 1 hits those annoying flying bugs. To upgrade our nail further, we need to keep an eye out for pale ore, which we will find as we continue on our journey. We arrive back at the elevator and head right into the City of Tears. At the center was a water fountain where someone decided to make an entrance. So Hornet arrives and talks about some lore stuff, which I completely forgot about. She decides to leave this time without my head. What was most important was that this fountain here was a memorial to the Hollow Knight, which I thought was me, but I guess I was wrong. I found a different way into the city as a lot of the doors were locked here. Making my way through, I began seeing paper on the ground, a sign that Cornifer is near. It turned out to be a trap, however, as I got jumped by the city's guard. With the upgraded nail, they were defeated pretty easily, and at the other end was our one and only. I decided to go up left to unlock the stag station, but not 2 steps from Cornifer was Zot, the Almighty. I forgot what he said and just moved on. We made our way past these guards to a payment booth, which brought down an elevator. It brought us back to an area of Forgotten Crossroad that was previously blocked. Making our way through this area, we are rewarded with a vessel fragment. Select 3 and we upgrade our soul gauge. What that means is instead of 3 fireballs, we can now spam 4. We take the elevator back down, this time finally to the City of Tears stag station, but we got jumped by a surprise mini boss. We continued on making our way through the castle until we arrived at a new boss arena. This is Soulmaster and he has 4 attack movements: normal fireball, fireball armor across, ground charge, and a ground slam, which he could fake. He's not really that hard. The teleporting gimmick makes him scary looking, but his movesets are actually pretty easy to dodge and heal between. We collect our new and like that, we just got tricked. Soulmaster has a second phase, which is the first time we've seen that in this game. In this phase, he appears above the player and slams down immediately. He can also fake this slam, but it doesn't happen too often. The main strat for this was to jump before the dash, since just dashing on the ground sometimes gets you hit by the AoE still. His only other attack is where he sits still and shoots homing fireballs at you. This is where you can actually attack him. Don't try to heal in this second phase, and you probably won't have time to heal here. In this phase, he has pretty low HP, so focus fire on this man and he goes down pretty quickly. The reward for this boss is a new spell, Desolate Dive. This new spell here is pretty good. It shoots the player down and creates a low explosion of damage, but most importantly, it gives the player invincibility frames, which is pretty useful for later. It also allows you to break certain terrains, which is what we did to get out of this area. After the battle, we find ourselves a treasure shop, which buys the treasures we've found throughout Hollowness. With all this money, we decide to head back up to Dirtmouth to spend it. We use up all our geo to empty out Sly's shop. However, he mentions he has more items in the back room, but he lost the key to the back room. He mentions that the key is somewhere in the Crystal Peaks. We didn't know this since I don't like reading, but we so just happened to be heading to Crystal Peaks. This area has a lot of platformers, but like any other area, we find Cornifer, and with the map, we found the bench guarded by a crystal thing. This is Crystal Guardian. He is an optional boss. We can just walk past this guy, I'm pretty sure, but But my mentality is swing before you think, so we need to beat this guy now. He himself only has one attack, a charge up laser beam, except he likes to jump around the map like Hornet, and he's kind of faster than Hornet, and additionally he summons lasers from the sky. These attacks aren't really too hard to avoid individually, but the sky laser combined with the charging laser and him jumping around makes him kind of hard to avoid. This man killed me more times than I would like to admit, and we did get past him. However, I forgot to hit record for this boss and the next bit of area, so I'll see if I can find filler images for this part. After defeating Crystal Guardian, we find Slide's key. We head back to Dirtmouth, and here is where I learned about the Mantis Lord fight. These are the Mantis Lords. They are 3 Mantis sisters who guard the path into an area called Deepness. Their attacks are faster than the enemies before this, but are pretty readable. They have a charge attack, which you kind of just jump over, hit them, and punish them for that. They have a crush down where they jump above you and you kind of just keep walking and attack them a few times. And they have a ring of light where they stick to the wall and just throw a disc of light at you that moves around. If you're confident, you can go to smack them a bit more while they're on the wall for this attack, but starting off, they don't do this move too much, so you might as well just dodge it and play patiently. After the first Mantis goes down, this battle becomes a 2v1. The 2 sisters keep the exact same moveset, except there are now 2 of them. The major change here is that the punish window is a lot shorter with the first Mantis. Most of the time you can punish a Mantis for 2 hits after dodging them, and maybe 3 depending on how confident you are. However, now with the second Mantis here, you can really only punish them for 1, or if you're lucky and really skilled, 2 hits. This boss fight wasn't really too hard for me, but if you're struggling, there is a little secret breakable wall here where it gives you 2 extra HP, which I found out about after I have beaten this boss already. After exploring Deepness to the point I got the map from Cornifer, I finally discovered my mistake and hit record. We found a platformer where you need to poke on top of these big bugs over this sea of smaller bugs. Then at the end, you need to pogo upwards where we get our first extra cell. Exploring through Deepness, we hear another familiar voice. We couldn't find a way to Zot, so we just moved on, and he can handle himself, honestly. I'm sure he'll be fine considering his previous endeavors. Further into Deepness, we find ourselves the Tram Pass. This unlocks a few quick travels that don't get used too often, but it'll be semi-useful later on. We struggle our way through Deepness until we finally find a new building where inside I immediately rush to the bench, and well, you know, I think I like that a little bit more than I'd like to admit. I spent way too long trying to find a way out of here, and even with the help of an online guide, it still took like a good hour for me to find a way out. When I finally got out, these gentlemen didn't look so good. But I've already spent way too long stuck in this place, so I really don't care and immediately rush out of here. Up at Dirtmouth, Bretta, a female bug we saved after Mantis Lord fight, has arrived. Going to her house, we found our 4th mass shard, which gives us our first health up. Using a simple key, we make our way into the Royal Waterways. Here we use Desolate Dive to reach a bench and begin looking for Cornifer immediately. Somehow I still kept getting lost and kept forgetting my objectives, to the point I wandered the opposite way of Cornifer and into a boss fight arena. This smelly guy is Dung Defender. By lore, one of the strongest characters in the game, but how far the mighty has fallen, as this fight amounted to him just throwing his poop at me. I don't know what to tell you. I defeated him first try and was rewarded with a stinky charm and another achievement, I guess. Damn, that was weird. We flipped the switch and was given an option to go up or down. We decided to go up first, and at the top we exited at the opposite side of the City of Tears, which was blocked up beforehand. We made our way immediately to the Stack Station, where I got tricked by a fake Stack Station sign and ended up at the Kingdom's Edge. Also, Grub. Going up Kingdom's Edge, we find ourselves Cornifer. This man really is Mr. Worldwide. We got a map for this area, and it seems it wants us to go bottom right, which is where we head next. On the way there, we fought these big big jumping hoppers, and we found
Oh my god, what the hell is that?
After narrowly escaping the primal aspen, we finally reached the corner. Here is where we meet our first nail master of the game, Nail Master Oro. He offers to teach us his nail art, which we accept. Nail arts are charge up attacks. We typically meet a different nail master first to learn a different nail art, but it doesn't matter at this point. We make our way up Kingdom's Edge, but sadly we fall to the terror known as the primal aspen. Eventually we found ourselves at the Coliseum of Fools. We pay an entry fee and we fight. The Coliseum of Fools is a battle challenge with waves of small and medium enemies. It has 3 levels, each of which drops different rewards, which we would need to complete later on to finish the Steam achievements. The first trial, the Trial of the Warrior, has 11 waves of enemy. The main strategy here is to heal between waves and complete each trial when you are of the level. Our nail currently is only 1 upgraded and we have 6 HP. This is a little weak but enough for the Trial of the Warrior. After a few runs and dying at the very end, we pretty quickly completed the first trial of the Coliseum. The reward for this is around 1000 geode and an extra charm slot, bringing our charm slot now to 6. For trial 2, the Trial of the Conqueror, there are 70 waves of enemy. In preparation for this trial, we equip Defender's Crest, Long Nail, and Quick Focus. The strategy here is the same as the first trial, except we are very much under level and under damage for this trial. However, I am stubborn, and the reward for this trial is 2000 geode and apparently a pale ore, which I really want. So we suffer here for a while. We spent a good 3 or 4 hours here with our current crappy setup, but eventually we finally beat the second trial and are rewarded with our first pale ore. You would think the first stop after all this torture would be the nailsmith, but nope. My autopilot brain decides to go back to Dirtmouth to Sly, which not a bad choice, but it's really annoying rewatching these sections, seeing how long it took me to finally upgrade my nail when I could have just gone immediately. Following a guide, we return to Crystal Peak, making our way through a set of parkour challenges rewarding us with the Crystal Heart. This item allows us to Crystal Dash, which keeps us in momentum until we hit anything to stop our movement. This is the point where I decided I wanted to collect all the movement options first before I moved on to anything else. So the first thing that caught my eye were the items called Monarch Wings. After some exploring around under the Kingdom sewer, we finally arrive at the Ancient Basin. We rush straight to the boss arena of this area, not really even exploring that much. This right here is Broken Vessel. I think by lore there are sibling or something, I'm not sure. He has 4 attacks: a wind up swing, a jump into a crash, sword swing, and random BS Gulper. The swing attack is really easy to read, you just jump over it. However, some version of the swing attack has him doing it in the air, which you can probably guess you don't want to jump for. The crash down attack he does mid-air, and it has him spawning fireballs that defy the laws of physics. The sword swing is just he sits still and swings a sword. I don't know what to tell you. And then there's random BS go, which spawns a lot of fireball going up, but it's pretty easy to avoid and dodge after playing him a few times. The gimmick with this boss is the amount of movements he likes to do, even more than Hornet actually. He also spawns these one-shottable ghosts randomly, which you should probably take care of while they spawn in, since if too many of them spawns in at once, it is pretty annoying of a fight to take care of. Broken Vessel only has like 500 some HP, which is actually 5 less than all 3 Mantis Sister combined, or it's something around like 200 less than Dun Defender. High aggression and less focus on healing is probably the best way to beat this boss, and like that, it's a pretty easy achievement. Going behind Broken Vessel, we find ourselves the Monarch Wing, which unlocks double jump, which is so nice. Pretty quickly, we found a map for this area and unlocked the Stag Station. The next item has us heading back to Crystal Peak. We fall down this hole and head left. We get flashbanged by those 3 ghosts from earlier and then get isekai to this place, whatever it is. Reaching the end of this thing, it rewards us with a dream nail. Not really sure what this is, but we wake up in front of this guy. This guy's name is Seer. He rewards us the more we play with our little dream nail. Moving on, this here is the resting ground. We messed around with the trees for a bit and unlocked the Stag Station. We discovered that the Dream Nail allows us to remine. Then we found this place that sells us charm notches. Forgotten Crossroad has changed to Infected Crossroad. Really hope that has nothing to do with what I just did. 3 marks are now marked on my map. Not really sure what they mean, but I found a statue with a dream boss. Being this guy and another dream boss gives us the money we need for or Seer. We seem to have collected half the charms in the game, which is an achievement. Not really knowing where to go next, we found ourselves back at Crystal Peak, but at the actual peak this time, where a pale ore awaits for us. Looking down from the highest point of the game had me thinking about all the editing I'm gonna need to do for this video, so we decided to hunt down the remaining pale ore, starting with an easy one in the ancient basin. We had to deep nest where we break a bunch of hidden walls, and we found possible friend, maybe? After we finally caught up to him, sadly he turned out he wasn't a friend. This is Nosk. He is guarding our next pale ore. His attacks are a simple charge or fireballs. He's really big and moves around a lot, so most of the damage are going to be from collisions with him. We could talk about him more, but he is not an achievement boss, and you can kind of just cheese him in this corner, so we say goodbye to Nosk. Behind him, we found our 4th pale ore. We decided to go upgrade our nail, however got lost in Green Path. How did this even happen? While we are here, we did this parkour challenge and met Nail Master Shio. He teaches us his nail art, leaving us with one final nail art we need to still discover. After a bit, we finally found the forge. We get our nail upgraded, but I was a little poor, so I had to go on a slight detour for the second upgrade. This upgrade is long overdue. Our nail now does 17 damage instead of 9, doubling it from its original. It still has one more final upgrade to go, but that requires 2 more pale ore, one of which will take a while, so we put that in the back pocket for now. We purchased the Shaman Stone charm along with our 7th charm notch. With all this upgrade, we attempt the 3rd trial of the Colosseum of Fool for a good while until we realize we are still quite a bit unprepared. But with that, we return to our training arc. With the help of some guides, we run over Hollowness, collecting as much mass shards as we can find. It was also somewhere along this part of the recording where I realized we gotten Isthmus tier without me realizing. The mass shards in the hide took me a while since I couldn't find the entrance for a long time. However, at the end of it, we have acquired our 8th health, 1 away from max. We headed back to the Colosseum for some money grinding. Now finally seemed like a good time to challenge those marked bosses on my minimap. So first we head to the Teacher's Archive. However, before we challenge this boss, we grab a new spell, the Howling Wrath, and deposit all our money at the bank nearby so we don't risk losing it later on. I'm somehow just figuring out that attacking these big jellyfish has them coming back to attack you. However, that is all behind us now as we enter the boss arena, as we face off against Umu. We cannot hurt Umu, and the thing spawns a bunch of lightning attacks and just floats around randomly. Its first of 2 attacks tracks you with a bunch of lightning that you need to just constantly run away from, and the second attack just spawns a bunch of random lightnings all over the arena, which you need to avoid. How we actually damage Umu is with the help of our friend Coral. He joins us in this battle, popping Umu's invincibility, allowing us the chance to finally attack it. Before long, we took down Umu with ease, allowing us access finally to the Dreamer. Nothing was really happening until Coral showed up again. We dreamed out the boss and entered the boss arena. However, it seems that the Dreamers don't actually fight back, so we cleared this one pretty easily. When we wake up, Coral is there waiting for us like the gentleman he is. We part ways as we begin to hunt down the other Dreamers, bringing us to the Watcher Knights. The Watcher Knights are 6 mini bosses with 200 HP each. They wake up one at a time, making the fight a constant 2v1 until you defeat all 6 of them. They have 3 attacks in total: Sword Swing, Sonic Roll, and Sonic Roll into a jump. Healing is tricky in this boss fight as it is with any other boss fight, however even more so since it's a constant 2v1. There really isn't a strategy for this boss aside from just get good. There is however a secret room right before the boss fight arena where you can make the 6v1 into a 5v1 instead. Making it past the guards, we arrive at the second Dreamer. We stab them, then vacuum up the ghost, now turning our sight to the last Dreamer. The final Dreamer is located in Deepness, where those spider coat guys webbed us up earlier. There is no mini boss guarding this boss since being in Deepness is painful enough, honestly. We stab and absorb the Dreamer, releasing the final mask. I have a slight suspicion I know where the final boss location is, so we return to Dirtmouth where we bought out everything before facing up the final boss. The seal previously blocking this entrance shatters as a screech echoes from within. We enter this arena where we rest at the bench and touch this lore tablet, which tells us the completion we have on this game file. Then finally we enter the boss room. Inside we found the final boss chained up to the ceiling. We break the 4 chains that held him up as he drops to the ground and the battle begins. This is the Hollow Knight, title of the game and all. He is also our sibling and was tasked with keeping sealed the orange things. However, he has become unable to keep sealed the orange, so we, the knight, came back to Hollow Nest to replace him to seal this orange. Our sibling here has 4 phases, each of which gives him some new moves. Phase 1 has 250 HP and has a lunge, a slash, and a parry. This moveset is identical to Hornet, except he is a lot taller than Hornet, so we'll need to big jump or double jump for him. Phase 2 has 350 HP and he gets Barrage and Flame Pillar. Barrage has him standing still and spitting out fireballs which curve down, while the Flame Pillar has him teleporting into the air before slamming down and summoning a bunch of flame pillars that does 2 massive damage. Unlike all the attacks so far, these 2 attacks require more precision. Most attacks you can just dash really far away and be safe, however both of these attacks cover most of the whole arena, so instead you'll have to find the closest safe area to stand instead of just dashing away. Phase 3 has 400 HP. It starts with him stabbing himself and he gains 2 moves, Bouncing Balloon and Bouncing Balloon has him rising into the air and slamming down where the knight is. The other attack is a Fountain of Fireballs, similar to what the Broken Vessel does. In this phase he also helps you by stabbing himself. He can still be hit during this attack, however all damage dealt to him is reduced to 1 during this move, so it's better to just heal up or gather soul during this phase. And phase 4, the Hollow Knight recovers a final 250 HP. If you reach this phase, you've basically won. This is the Hollow Knight's final stand, but he is completely out of energy. He's lost most of his moves and basically all of his movement. When he does try to attack you, he actually fails to attack and trips over everything. Finally, when he's gone down, we, the knight, focus on all the orange that is leaking out of him. After absorbing all the orange, we become the new vessel to keep sealed the orange and achieve our first ending, the Hollow Knight. And with the first ending achieved, this is where we have to make the ultimate choice of the game, or should I say the video, I suppose. There are 3 options for a typical Hollow Knight video: the easy option of just defeating the Hollow Knight and calling it a day, or the 112%ing Hollow Knight to complete everything, quote unquote, that most people do, or the final option that is the most difficult, which is fully completing Hollow Knight by finishing all the Steam achievements. But looking at the title, you can probably assume which miserable choice I decided to pick. Completing the game now rewinds us to before the boss fight. Touching the tablet, it tells us that we are 66% completed with the game. We return to Dirtmouth to plan out our next steps. Conveniently, there is actually a checklist online that shows you all the tasks you need to complete for 112%ing Hollow Knight. We returned to where it all began and found ourselves a secret pathway. Reaching the top, we return to the start even before the start, where we look around for a bit and find ourselves the final Nail Master Mato. We learn from him the final nail art and continue on. We arrive at the very edge of the world where we cannot leave, so we head right instead. We found ourselves a large bug which we stabbed, but it seemingly did nothing, so we moved on and found ourselves a beautiful little arena. We pick up this charm, and I really hope dream nailing these ghosts is a good thing, like setting them free or whatever, since I've kind of been dream nailing every ghost I've come across. Our next stop is the Queen's Garden, the place where the final stack station lies. We've passed by this place before when we were finding ourselves the Howling Raft. Exploring this place, we found ourselves a low hidden corner where inside were some bigger mantises and a love key. Gonna need to Google what that's for later. We wander around a bit before finally finding the sign that says stack station just to walk into a trap. The challenge wasn't that hard and we moved on pretty quickly, continuing to look for the stack station before somehow getting lost in deepness. At least this is better than me getting lost in Green Path looking for the nailsmith. Back on track, we reach 600 essence, free a grub, explore a bit more, then we finally found the final stack station. Coincidentally, the last stag says he's found a way to his people, so we head to the stag nest. However, we found that the stag nest wasn't as lively as it once was. However, we do find within these remains one of the 2 remaining soul fragments we still need to find. We fly back to Dirtmouth, planning for our next trip, that being the Traitor Lord. To challenge the Traitor Lord, we first head to the Kingdom's Edge, again where we chase down Hornet. She has the same attacks as she did the first time we fought her, except she has 3 times more health than before. The strategy here remains the same, but even more so since she is so much faster. Stay low and heal only when she's staggered. When her HP gets low, she begins summoning these 3 permanent stage hazards. These 3 balls of needles stay permanently until you hit them. You could ignore them, but it's like playing this fight on hard mode, so make sure to clear these spikes out and use spells to clear them out if you can. But pretty quickly, we were able to clear out this version of Hornet as well. Getting past Hornet, we entered the mouth of that one SpongeBob worm from that one episode. At the end, we found ourselves the Mark of a King, the King's Brand. With us taking the treasure, the cave begins to cave in on us and we are trapped. However, the Sister of the Year Hornet decides to save us this time. While we are here, we also found a place where we could use that love key we found earlier. We enter this area and hear some noises. Entering the boss room, we yeah, I don't want to know what he was doing up there. This is the Collector. He throws jars at you and jumps around the arena. The jars he throws at you could spawn little creatures that die to 1 hit if your nail is up to the level. The lower his HP gets, the more jars he starts throwing at you. And why is that his stagger animation, man? Near the end, I'm not sure if he bugged out, but he just stood there while I attacked him. And why does it sound like he's enjoying this? Oh god. At the top of the tower, we freed the 3 kidnapped grubs and found a map with all the locations of the remaining grubs. I feel like I need to call the cops right now. Feds, Kendrick, I don't know, anyone honestly. We began heading down into the ancient basin where the door requires a password. Open sesame. We entered into a new area, the abyss, and headed right where we found some shade who does double damage and gives no soul to us when hit. We head up into this tower avoiding these shades into this room where we turn on the light. We fly across the lake where on the other side is a fountain which we take a dip into to unlock the shade cloak. This is a dash ability with a 1.5 second cooldown. It gives us iframe and allows us to dash through those dark fogs blocking our way. We checked the left of the abyss where we found seemingly nothing before we headed up where at the top is Hornet waiting for us. We say hi before parting way as we began heading towards Queen's Garden where we now have the ability to shade dash through the dark fog. At the end of this platformer are some goons blocking our path before our actual target, the Traitor Lord. The Traitor Lord does 2 massive damage per hit, making him kinda scary for first timers. His attacks are a dash that he pairs up with jump, a ring of light, and a wave attack that covers the whole arena. The strategy here is to stay close to him as he only does the wave attack and the ring of light attack when you are far from him. However, when you are close to him, he only has the dash, which you can just shade dash through, or the jump dash, which you can just walk under. Something to focus on during this fight is that this is a skill check, specifically for the newly acquired shade cloak. I say that because jumping is fully unnecessary for this boss. All you have to do for this boss is really just don't panic dash. All the bosses from this point on will have a significant spike in power, which is why to me Hornet Sentinel and Traitor Lord serve as the 2 skill check bosses for the endgame bosses. Getting past Traitor Lord, we found ourselves this building. Inside the building is this lady, the White Lady. This is our mom, I'm pretty sure, and she gives us a half of the Vessel Fragment charm. We passed by the Blue Lake where we found Koro, who asks us to chill with him for a bit. Something fell off about this moment, but we flew off after saying goodbye to our good friend. We'll see him later somewhere, probably, just chilling around as he does. I'm not crying, you're crying. We arrive at the charm shop where we unlock the secret item menu, which we will need to come back for later. We head back to Dirtmouth into Slide's shop where in the back he gives us a charm as a gift. We check up on the map shop where Cornifer has finally returned to his hot wife. You lucky bastard. Back at Howling Cliff where that big bug was, we kept dream nailing everything to see if something would happen, but eventually we try to hit it like a normal person, and after a few smack the fire torch lit and the circus music started playing, we return returned to Dirtmouth, where we found Elderbug not where he usually is, but also a traveling circus it seems. Going into the tent, they gave a really fancy entry before we met Troop Master Grimm. We talked for a bit, and I already know this guy is every 2018 theater kids hear me out, which I am not hearing you out since I called dibs. He gives us the Grimchild charm, and equipping it, we head towards the 3 marked locations on our map. At each of the mark are these ghosts, which we feed to Grimchild. After the final ghost, you'd think we'd head back to Grimm to finish his thing, but nope. My brain said let's go farm Geo instead. Now, some of you might know why I did this, but let me explain. With Grimm, he brought with him a lady called Divine. Divine can upgrade the fragile charms you buy from Lake Eater at the cost of a lot of money. Now, in older versions of the game, if you finish Grimm's quest without buying the unbreakable charms, Divine will actually leave with Grimm, making it impossible to acquire the unbreakable charms. I wasn't sure if that bug was still in the game, but to play it safe, I decided to grind out Geo before finishing out the quest. I decided to grind here in the City of Tears. We needed 26,000 Geo for all 3 charm upgrades, and the 2 main charms for this segment are Fragile Greed and Gathering Swarm. Each run nabbed us around 500 Geo, and doing the math, that'll take a bit of time before getting what we need. Near the end of this Geo grind, we found that the bank actually robbed us of our money, so we found them and got our money back. With interest. After 2 hours of geo grinding, we returned to Dirtmouth, equip all the fragile charms, and talk to Divine, who... Okay, now, hear me out. Question mark. We head to the bench to plan out our following charms, as our next boss is actually Grimm, who aside from being the original mascot for Hasbin Hotel, I've heard to be a pretty tough cookie. With our 9 charm notches, we equip the Grimchild, which we need for this fight, Quick Focus, the new Unbreakable Strength, and Nail Master's Glory, cause I don't know what else to equip. Entering Grimm's lair, ready for a fight, he upgrades Grimchild and leaves. Yeah, slight oopsie, he wants us to kill 3 more ghosts. Anyways, we return to Grimm after clearing those marks, where Grimm proceeds to eat Grimchild and start a fight with us. Grimm has 4 primary attacks we need to memorize. He has a bat launcher, a dive, an uppercut, and spikes. The easiest attack to memorize are his bat launchers, where he teleports backwards and launches 3 bats at you. The dive has him diving at you, pretty self-explanatory, just jump over him. His spikes are a little hard to react to at first since it comes out kinda quick, but it's similar to the Broken Vessel's fire pillars, so just find the closest safe area to get to. Then finally, his grab doesn't go as far as you think. It travels about half the arena and then combos into a fireball. All of Grimm's attack can kinda be countered by high jumping. Most of the bosses so far have you playing pretty low, but Grimm is pretty tall just like Broken Vessel, so you need to jump high and jump over his attacks. Most of his attack only curves upwards near the end, so after a few runs of this boss, you'll know to stay close. At 75, 50, and 25% of his HP, he goes into pufferfish mode and spits out fireballs. Take a corner and just light jump over all of his attacks. Grimm still could be damaged in this phase, but it's kinda hard to without using any spells. At the start of the battle where he's bowing to you, if you attack him, he will start the battle with this attack. When he gets staggered, he becomes really hard to hit, and the damage done to him cannot exceed 50. So this period would be better just healing 3 massive health unless you are max HP in case going for some damage. My 3 upgrade nail does 17 damage per hit, and with Unbreakable Strength it does 25 to his 930 HP pool, so on our 3rd run Grimm was brought down pretty easily, which is surprising since I thought he was supposed to be a hard boss. Afterwards he returns to say GG's. He returns Grimchild, now a little more red than before. And wait a minute, I'm finally reading the dialogues here. What do you mean our child? I was kind of joking about calling dibs part. What do you mean passionate dance? I know he means the fight we just had, but like it's not helping the allegations. Get it? Allegations? He asks us to collect more fire and gives us a charm notch. We put that quest aside since I got a little distracted, but also a little because I found out the next Grimm fight is the harder Grimm fight. Starting at Deep Nest, we get a fire from this guy. While we're here, we discover the Weaver's Den where we get an extra charm. And while we make our way to the other flames, we are reminded of an old missing friend, Zod. After looking around for a bit, we finally found a way to him and freed him. We discover a horrific room, free grub, grub before we finally make it to the second flame. We feed him to Grimchild before immediately getting distracted, so here's a small montage of the grubs I saved. We eventually make it to the final fire that we need, and as usual, Grimchild is hungry. After collecting the 3 flames, we return to Grim, except he is not here. We head to the back room where we find Grim taking a nap, so we take a peek into his dreams. Inside his mind, however, this does not seem like a dream, but instead this is where I typically go on my whole introduction to the boss thing. However, Grim here actually kicked my butt so hard, we decided to do the other things on our to-do list first. We start by getting this mass shard, now only 2 mass shard remaining from max HP. Save a grub, then head to Seer. Remember this guy? He's been giving us some pretty good stuff, and just now he's given us our final vessel fragment, which we've been looking for, giving us an achievement. Now this next part is every Hollow Knight player's. We have 2 mass shards left to collect. Seer has one of them, and the other is in the possession of this lady. This is Grey Mourner. By lore, she is one of the strongest champions of Hollow Knight, but requires our assistance to deliver this scrawny flower. I tried cheesing this quest for so long with no results, and this whole thing took a good 2 hours to complete. What she wants is to have this flower delivered from here all the way to the grave in the Queen's Garden, without any quick travel or taking a single drop damage on the way there. As you can guess, pretty annoying task. I'ma stop complaining now since it's already done, so here's the path I took. We get out the resting ground, which is the easy part of the journey, then take the tram into the Forgotten Crossroad. We head down, then up into the Fungal Waste, but not for long before taking this swim into Fog Canyon and the Teacher's Archive, where we popped out of the Queen's Garden and finally at the grave. I picked this path specifically because Fog Canyon doesn't have anything that wants to mess with you unless you mess with it first. I think the other route is through Green Path, but I don't really care now since my job here is done. The final mass shard, as mentioned, is at Seers. We need 1500 essence for the reward, but 2400 essence is an achievement, so we choose to farm for that instead. Starting at 1089 essence, we'll need 1300 plus some withering roots. We've been fighting some dream warriors here and there. However, if we want a lot of essence, we gotta fight the dream bosses. These are the dream version of the bosses we've already fought, and they are a lot tougher than before. There are 6 dream bosses and only 5 of them being our target, since Nightmare King Grim is one of the options. From our 5 targets, we are only doing 4 of them for now. We start off with the Failed Champion, who gives 300 essence. This is just False Knight, but a lot faster and does double damage now. The main challenge to this fight isn't the buff to the knight itself, but the stage hazards only to this fight. It is constantly raining fireballs during this fight, so when you do get hit, it is probably by those raining fireballs or by you taking your eyes off the boss to avoid the fireballs. Along with that, False Knight doing double damage makes it pretty difficult to learn his attack patterns. Eventually we got past him, but it was a big struggle. A significant part of that fight felt like luck, and if we would have to fight him again, I feel like it'd be a struggle. Our next target is the 400 SN Lost Kin. Again, this is just an upgraded Broken Vessel. All his attacks are a lot faster and cover a lot more area now, but this really is just Broken Vessel with more than double HP, so it shouldn't be too difficult. Here we have another change of plans. As you might have noticed with the past 2 bosses, we only barely slide by with 1 remaining mask. Some bosses do double damage, so us being on 2 mask health isn't the most comfortable thing ever, so we make a quick stop at Seers for our final mask shard. The next boss is Soul Tyrant, 300 essence. Like the other 2, he's faster and covers more area with his attacks. This battle actually tripped me up quite a bit since his attacks all remain the same but are dodged differently. Where we see this most prominently is during his cloak attack. Before, when we didn't have Shade Dash, he goes a lot slower and we can dash through the orb cloak, but in this faster version, it has us dashing through him with the Shade Dash. It's just some muscle memory that we'll have to adjust to. So after getting surprised by phase 2 again for some reason, we defeated him pretty quickly. Our final target is the 300 essence White Defender. He is sleeping down here, and like every other dream boss, he's a lot faster, covers a lot more area, yada yada yada. He didn't take long to beat at all. However, after defeating him, his body remained there, so I thought we had to keep fighting him, which led to us beating him like 3 times now. So like, triple achievements. Here we are only 10 essence off from 2400. However, I suddenly remembered why we went out of our way to max out our stats. So we returned to Nightmare King Grim for the final bit of essence that we'll need. Our final charm setup is Grim Child, Unbreakable Strength, Mark of Pride, and the one and only Dream Shield. I actually really like Dream Shield. Sometimes it blocks an attack for me, and a lot of the time it does extra damage. You've probably seen me use it against a few bosses I've struggled with up until now, and yeah, I think I'm gonna need it for Grim. As everybody should know by now, this is the infamous Nightmare King Grim. Probably like the third most difficult boss fight in this game. Just like all the other Dream bosses, Nightmare King Grim is like a lot faster than before, and he was already pretty fast. A fact I failed to mention was that Dream bosses actually scale off the level of your nail upgrade. So with my 3 upgrade nail, my Nightmare King Grim had almost double HP from his original. His attacks now do double damage, and though his attacks may look similar from before, its pattern has actually changed up quite a bit. The bat launcher now launches 4 bats that you need to jump between instead of just jumping over. The fireballs from his uppercut are a lot faster, to the point I couldn't reliably dodge him in this fight, and I just had to pray that he didn't do that move too often. The dive now leaves a trail of damage, and the spikes comes out fast. He also gains a new attack where he just floats there menacingly and summons 4 flame pillars. This attack does leave a pretty good window for you to attack him, but he is also attacking you while you're attacking him, so it's slightly tricky to do this. I feel like I have a lot of things to say about Nightmare King Grim, but at the same time there really isn't much to say here. I like this boss since it felt like that one skill check boss in every video game that you just have to get good at. Not the hardest boss in the game, but the fairest boss for sure. Near the beginning, I think I tried to look for cheeses or tips for this boss, but that ended with just them telling me to get good. So word of advice, get good. After our dance with Grim, his troop has disappeared, leaving behind only Grim Child as the only proof that they were here. Since Grim didn't actually give any essence, we continued on with our side quest. We head into the hive to battle this guy, which gives us a charm, but most importantly, we rescue the final grub baby that's stuck in here. We head into the neighboring kingdom's edge to get a charm and to find Markov for his essence. Oh, we'll see this guy later. We return to Dirt Mouth to see that all the grubs are now safely home, and now the grub even gives us a charm for it. I friggin' love these guys. We then head to the resting ground to talk to Seer. He upgrades our dream nail and then says his final words apparently, and did I kill him? We head to the Coliseum of Fools where we find ourselves a surprise. A formless voice tells us to do the first challenge again, so we do so. However, at the end they seem to have added a new beast, so we draw our nail in preparation for Zot the Mighty. He begins his attack with a quick front flip, followed by a back flip, though only to lure us in as he draws his nail, swinging furiously and hitting us twice. We barely survive Zot's barrels of attack, but he isn't done yet. He again repositions with a few acrobatic flips before we narrowly find an opening where we just barely make it out with our life. While we're here, we decide to do the final challenge of the Coliseum of Fools. The last time we attempted this, we only had 6 masses of health, so our chances are looking better this time. The Trial of the Fool has 17 waves of enemy, with each wave averaging around 6 to 14 enemies. As you can guess, this takes a pretty long time. Each attempt takes like 20 minutes to reach the end, so try not to die. However, something tells me that this isn't the last test of our patience. Our next target is in Dirt Mouth, where Zot has returned to tell the tale of our battle to a bug named Britta. Going to her house, we find in her basement a statue of Zot just sitting there. We dream nailed the statue as it brings us in front of the terrifying, beautiful, powerful Grey Prince Zot. This is the final dream boss that we skipped out on before, and a boss that we would have missed out on if we let Zot die the first time we met him. Zot honestly has too many attacks. He has a flail, Zotling split, slam, ceiling slam, and summoning. Flail has him rushing at you with an attack you have to pogo over. Zotling spit has him spitting out babies that attack you. Both slams has him spawning waves that you need to double jump over, and his summonings explode if you attack them or leave them alone for too long. The flail and the wave attack gives us the impression that you can continuously pogo the boss, however that is a trap. Zot likes to run around the arena, yes, but he also likes to jump around like Hornet, which he is way too big for. Most of his attacks can actually go up, so pogoing him is actually a pretty bad idea. When he summons the Zotlings, focus on removing them first with your nail or spell. This goes double for the ghosts since they take up way too much valuable space. As frustrating as Zot was, he holds a pretty similar position to Nightmare King Grim. All jokes aside, I think most of his attacks are mostly fair and all dodgeable. A lot of his attacks seem unfair when combined together, however all of his attacks individually are very fair and dodgeable. Clearing out the summons and the bombs are optional, however depending on if you do clear them out, some attacks become dodgeable and or undodgeable. Zalt is much slower than Grim, but challenges the player with interactable stage hazards, which feels really nice after you find a good flow for the boss fight. We're only missing 4 remaining charms, so we head out to get those real quick. We head back to the charm shop, but it says that we're still missing 1 charm. What we're missing is the other half of the white fragment charm. To get the other half of the fragment, we come to this guy at the ancient basin, and with our awakened dream nail, stab him. Welcome to the White Palace. We don't talk about a White Palace. All we do here are just some parkour so that we can turn on these lights for some lore. After we figure out a proper charm setup for this area, we reach the end pretty quickly with ease. The main charms to consider here are a combination of Silksong and Hive Blood. At the end, we slap our dad a few times, and then he gives us the other half of the fragment, giving us the King's Soul. There is a bunch of other lore stuff to explore in this area, like the Path of Pain, but this footage is like 5 to 8 hours in already, so I am good with that. Before we do anything, we feel this strange presence coming from the abyss, it seems. Following this feeling, we reach the floor of the abyss, where a pathway going deeper underground opens up for us. We enter underground, where an army of shade decides to attack us. We make our way past them, going deeper and deeper into the abyss, till we arrive before this cocoon thing. For some reason, this thing, it feels homey. We decide to strike with our dream nail. We awaken feeling like something has changed. Exiting the way we entered, however, the shades now remain passive to our presence. We climb out of the abyss and feel another calling. This time, however, something else is telling us that we're not prepared for this new call. With an anxious heart, we head back to Crossroad. This new challenge will be something big, so we'll need every bit of upgrade we can still get. We head over to Salubra for our final upgrade. The whole way there was this feeling of a looming dread, like a devil on your shoulder telling you of disasters that are to come. And at that moment, I do feel that something was After getting reinvigorated, we head over to Nailmaster's Shield. Now I need to explain something. Sometime around Nightmare King Grim, I believe I collected the final piece of pale ore and upgraded my nail. However, I couldn't find the footage for this, so whoopsies. Either way, after the Nailmaster upgrades our nail to max, he asks us to strike him down. We can do as he asks, or we can spare him. Both options are our achievement, so I spared him in this run to save time for a later run. Plus, this is my main file, which I do want a happy ending on. And now that we finally obtained everything, I feel we're ready to answer that call. So we equip our strongest charms and head over to the Black Egg. At the entrance is Hornet wishing us good luck. She mentions that she's not going to join this fight since she does not have a death wish, but her words sounded hesitant, so we'll see what happens. We enter the Hollow Knight arena as the battle begins. The Hollow Knight hasn't changed at all, but we are 10 times stronger than the last time we fought. We enter phase 4 in record time. However, before we can do anything, from the distance comes a needle straight into the Hollow Knight's head. Hornet has found her opening to help us in this battle. However, we were too surprised to do anything, leading to Hornet getting struck off and us finishing the Hollow Knight by ourselves. We again absorbed the orange and obtained the second ending, Seal Siblings. Coincidentally, we've also had more than 100% completion on this game file, so we cleared the completion achievement. We're not done, however, as again we enter the Hollow Knight arena, where again Hornet comes in this time and we dream nail the boss, revealing our next challenge. This is the Radiant. She does 2 massive damage and is the secret end boss of the base game. Depending on who you ask, Radiant can have up to 5 phases, but I'm saying she only has 3. Phase 1, she has 750 HP, she shoots light beams, swords, moving lights, and sword rains, which can go sideways. After she falls around half HP, she starts turning the floor into spikes and gets homing fireballs. A pretty tough boss, as you can probably guess. First, the light beams. These remind me of Grimm's floor spikes since it shows you where they're coming up from, and most of the time does not require the dash. After finding some safe spots to dodge the light beams, you can actually get some pretty good damage off this attack. More specifically with the spell Howling Wrath, since it hits the Radiant like 7 times. The swords are easy to dodge, just move. For real though, this attack is impossible to dodge if you get greedy. That being when you're jumping in the air trying to sneak in attacks and this attack is activated. The light wall requires Shade Dash to dash through, which has a cooldown, but most people don't really remember that when using Shade Dash. If Shade Dash is still on cooldown and you need to dodge in the moment, you could just Desolate Dive since it gives you a 0.4 second of iframe, which is longer than you think. The sword range should be the easiest to dodge. If you can't dash or run to the big gaps, just stand between the small gaps and sneak in hits. The real problem is the sideway ring swords. You can Shade Dash through one set, but the rest requires you to jump through the gaps between. This is unless you have the good old reliable Desolate Dive. Course. The floor spikes takes up half the arena for a long time. Just wait it out, or alternatively, Desolate Dive also removes spike if you land on it. The homing fireballs are easy to dodge if you run them into the ground. I kept jumping over them, keeping them in the air for longer, which led to them hitting me more than it should. Time for phase 2. Phase 2 is the easiest phase. Radiant stays at the center of the arena and rains swords upon everywhere. She has 250 HP here, and a few Howling Wrath will take her down in seconds. However, the better option here is actually just kill her with your nail and save the soul for phase 3. At the end of phase 2, Radiance is down for a while. Here's when you should heal as much as you can. There should be enough time to heal at least 3 or maybe even 4 masses safely before phase 3. Phase 3 is phase 1, but there's no floor. You are limited to these small platforms which the Radiance will TP to randomly while attacking you all over. There's no new attacks, but it's a lot harder to find a place to land, and this phase has 700 HP, so you'll be here for a while. For some attacks like the light wall or the sideways swords, they do 2 massive damage and it's near impossible to dodge them for newbies. So instead, just dive into the void and take 1 massive damage instead. I think using Desolate Dive here is actually optimal. Either you land on a platform to save yourself from the attack, or you land in the void only taking half damage. So once again, thank you Desolate Dive. After Radiance falls to her last bit of HP, she flies into the sky. You ascend these steps while the Radiance shoot lasers at you, and around you, you and your shades all rise up, all aiding in defeating the Radiant. As you make it to the top, the Radiance is finally in sight. We lunge towards her, and with a final strike, she is brought down. The void surrounds everything as the shade of the Hollow Knight comes up to hold down the Radiance. Our Knight bursts from his shell, repeatedly striking the Radiance before she cracks and is dragged into the abyss, her light now no longer hurting anything. And this gives us the third ending, Dream No More. Somehow, even after battling the Radiance, we were still only 104% complete. Our current goal is to fix that right now, however we do Mr. Mushroom's quest first. The Mr. Mushroom quest is a quest where you equip the Mushroom Charm and run all around Hollowness, finding and talking to this Mr. Mushroom. He talks about lore stuff, I'm pretty sure, and at the end he just flies off, which is kinda funny, I can't lie. After this quest, we defeat the Hollow Knight again. We sit through the really long Team Cherry's end log. Reaching the end, we are rewarded with a cutscene of Mr. Mushroom flying through the sky and our 4th ending. Now I know I said we were gonna focus on the 112%ing this game final now. However, I feel like this is a good time to organize all the remaining Steam achievements we still need to complete. There's 14 Steam achievement remaining, and up until now everything took about 38 hours. I have almost 90 hours of playtime in Hollow Knight. These last 14 achievements took me longer to get all of them than the 49 other achievements. First, let's split up everything to see what we actually need to do to finish everything. 5 of the 14 remaining achievements are clearing out the Pantheon, and I already know that the final Pantheon will be my final quest to complete, so we can add pure completion onto this to make this one complete task. Of the 8 remaining achievements, 2 of them are Hunter's Quest, which count as task 2, and speedrunning Steel Soul in under 5 hours will count for 3 tasks, leaving us with only 5 achievements remaining, which we can do in Steel Soul within 20 hours. With everything laid out, we start our final journey by entering Godhome. Godhome is an area of boss rush of all the previous bosses we fought until now, whom the God Tamer deems as gods. There are 5 Pantheons in total, Pantheon 1 through 4 all having 10 bosses, and Pantheon 5 being unlocked after all the previous Pantheons are defeated. Starting with Pantheon 1, Pantheon the Master, this Pantheon has all the easiest bosses we fought up until now, starting with the Vengefly King. I would be insulted by this if not for the fact that this beast has the power to combat Great Prince Salt. Following this battle, we have Gruzmother, False Knight, Massive Moss Charger, Hello Hornet, a Bench, Gourd, Gun Defender, Soul Warrior, Brewing Maulus, and a surprise battle with No Master Oro. Master Oro seems to have a similar attack to the Watcher Knights, except with a jump attack and these nil dash slashes. Master Oro goes down surprisingly quickly, so the arena throws us another surprise. No Master Mato now jumps in to, well, jump us. Oro still retains the damage from our previous fight, only having 600 HP, however Mato is fresh off the bench with 1000 HP. Mato has the same attacks, however, as you might have guessed, he uses his own nail art, which you have to jump over and maybe pogo off of. After removing one of them, likely Oro, the battle becomes pretty easy, and as the final strike lands, the battle is over. Both masters stand up and bow to you, a battle well fought. Remember to bow back. Next is Pantheon 2, Pantheon of the Artist, and I have a slight hunch I know who the final boss here is. I'll show all the fights, but only talk about the ones that stand out from now on. The Mantis Lords are here as the 5th battle before the bench. Everything in Godhome is buffed, and we can really feel it with the Mantis Lords. Other than that, they haven't changed that much yet. Reaching the end, it seems that our hunch was correct, as No Master Shield now rises his brush to us. Shield has 4 attacks, 3 on the ground and 1 in the air. When he's in the air, he throws down red paints that spatter all over the arena, and when he's on the ground, you can pay attention to the color of his paintbrush to see which attack he's gonna throw. Yellow is across the map thrust, blue the default color is a close swing into 3 paintballs, and finally pink is a sizable slam followed by a few seconds of rain. Shield is tricky since yellow requires a pretty large jump while all the other attacks have you stay on the ground, but in the end he is not really that tough. He leaves many openings after and before he attacks, and he only has 950 HP as a 1v1, which is a lot easier than the 2v1 of Oro and Mato. Again, remember to bow. Now next is Pantheon 3, or so you think. Pantheon 3 is where the difficulty of the bosses begin to ramp up, and it actually stomped me out for a while, so we put that on hold and we need to talk about the completion progress. The only thing left to do are the 2 remaining Pantheons, so our completion percentage should be at 110%. However, it's only at 107, which means we probably missed 3 things on the to-do list. And after looking around for a bit, we finally found our mistake, which comes with a funny story. So the basic 3 spells you get to start are Vengeful Spirit, that's Dive, and Howling Wrath. I knew from the guide that they could be upgraded, however I thought the upgrades were obtained by using a specific charm. As most people can guess by now looking at the completion percentage, these spells can be upgraded separately individually. I don't know how I didn't realize this until the final 2% of the game. We now have Shade Soul, Descending Dark, and Abyss Shriek. It's time for Pantheon 3, Pantheon of the Sage. I mentioned earlier this is where the difficulty of the boss will hit a spike, which is true even at the start of the battle, but the power spike is really apparent at the 5th boss. You know him, you love him, it's true Master Grim. This was a pretty hard fight, but we've already fought Nightmare King Grim already, so this wasn't actually that bad. Our main focus here, however, isn't actually Grim, but rather the 7th battle against the invincible, fearless, sensual, mysterious, enchanting, vigorous, diligent, overwhelming. Another fun fact about Zalt, if you let him die in green half at the start of the game, you actually skip this fight, making it a 9 boss rush. Luckily for us, during my spare time, I actually took on the Zalt challenge, where he gains a new title and more damage after each run. This Zalt we're fighting now in Godhome is actually more akin to terrifying, beautiful, powerful Great Prince Zalt, since he only does 1 to 2 massive damage per hit, while Invincible Zalt does 8 massive damage per hit. The difficulty ramps up again in Battle 9 against Hornet Sentinel, which you've always got to respect. However, the true surprise of this Pantheon is of course the final battle against No Master Sly. Sly is a pretty simple fight if we slow him down and actually read his movements. He has the nail art of all 3 Nail Master, which we already know how to dodge. His 2 other moves are down slash, which Oro and Mato both do, and his 1 unique move is actually a 3-piece combo, which you need to run away from, then dash under. The difficulty of this fight comes from Sly's surprisingly huge hitbox. His sword swings actually reaches as far as the Nail Masters while being not even a quarter of their size. Taking down Sly, we enter phase 2. Sly begins jumping all over the arena and going chainsaw whenever he's near you, and near the end of his attack he gives you an opening to strike him. I didn't know this for this fight, but Sly jumping around the arena doesn't actually count as a hit towards you if you touch him. The only thing that actually hits you are the saw blades, which means it's better to stand still and dash away only when he's attacking you, and don't even try to jump like what I'm doing here. In the end, however, this phase only has 250 HP, and with a final strike, Sly is down, and we bow for a match well fought. We exit Pantheon 3 victorious. When we get close to the cage, it now lowers for us, unlocking Pantheon 4, our final percentage. I'm not even messing around, I'm going straight in, this is gonna take way too long. Pantheon 4, Pantheon of the Night, starts off with Enraged Guardian. This is an easy fight for us now, but this man took so long to beat in the base game, and is considered the first enemy here. That definitely sets a tone for these upcoming bosses. Complaints aside, he was a pretty easy boss, and honestly, so are most of the bosses in the Pantheons if you fought them already. 6 out of the 10 bosses here are Dream Warriors, which aren't designed to be hard, and look who we have here. Death aside, our next run went far into the Pantheon. Battle 8 are the 6 Watcher Knights. They weren't that difficult of a battle, but having 6 enemies in a boss rush felt extra. Entering the last room, however, we stand face to face with a familiar figure. This is Pure Vessel. If you look closely, this is just a Hollow Knight but as a dream boss. This man is healthy, does 2 massive damage, fast as heck, 6 feet tall, and gets all the ladybugs. I would talk more about this guy, but he killed me too quickly, and I expected that to happen anyways, so let's go explore Godhome for a bit. At the very bottom of Godhome and to the left is a training ground. You can practice any of the Pantheon bosses here as long as you've seen them before. We were never gonna beat Pure Vessel on our first run, so our goal was always to just unlock this first. Now that we've got this unlocked, however, we can talk more about the Pure Vessel in detail. This is the Pure Vessel. He has all of the Hollow Knight's base moves like Triple Strike, Lunge, Parry, and Flame Pillar except with swords, and an extra move where he throws out daggers. He only has the one phase with 1600 HP currently, however he does get 2 more moves after he gets low, Explosion and Tentacles. We first tried to brute force this boss, like with any other bosses, but that didn't end too well. You would think after all that brute forcing I would have come up with a plan, but not really. We just kept shade dashing through every attack and get close to swing on him, which often results in us getting punished. A lot of his attacks can just be jumped over or dodged, but I'm a little too meat brain for that, so we keep brute forcing this man with our stick. This run here, we reaches his second phase. The explosions are easy to dodge, but the tentacles, I couldn't resist but to dash into it to get a feel. The excitement of reaching phase 2 had us, well, excited. So we enter again just to get cooked in record time. After this point, it's just practice on top of more practice against the Pure Vessel. We learned to play more passive. Attacks that previously would have hit us were dodged calmly, and we developed the rhythm to hitting the boss instead of just randomly swinging our nail. We can now easily reach phase 2, but we're still struggling with it. Many of Pure Vessel's attack has us dashing towards him after a teleport, which has become muscle memory for me to dash towards him now after he teleports. The tentacle attacks on phase 2, however, has a similar startup with the teleport, but a really different dodge, that being high jump. A slower reaction high jump could work here, however I kept dashing towards him for this attack, leaving me no time to dodge his attack. Additionally, even after I've started playing more passive, I still charge in towards the Pure Vessel for some more chip damage. I'll explain why this is bad later, but for now let's just say this is me still playing a little too aggressive. With all that in mind though, we still challenge Pantheon 4 hoping for the best. The whole Pantheon aside from Traitor Lord were quickly defeated, which brings us before the Pure Vessel. We begin the battle with a lucky dodge on his parry, then we carefully dodge all his attacks with precision, sneaking in hits in between with Shade Soul. The constant pressure staggers the Pure Vessel quickly, allowing us even more damage before an explosion attack signals in phase 2. From here on out, we begin playing more passive. Phase 1 was already muscle memory at this point, so the strat was to kill it quickly and get to phase 2 before we lose too many masses. We begin phase 2 by getting hit twice, but no worries as we collect ourselves and we stagger him midair. We heal 2 and barely dodge the tentacle attack, dashing into it and not getting hit. We dodge the tentacle again, and for some reason attack into the parry. It doesn't matter however, as we stagger the boss and finish him off with a Shade Soul. Before we claim our victory, we awaken in a room surrounded by void. In this room, an army of vessels stands before us. However, before we can process this information, a familiar light breaks into the room, followed by its scream. Around us, the void rises as we exit Pantheon 4 victorious. A structure appears on top of the Pantheon. We strike it, and a light from above brings us to the new Pantheon. Pantheon 5, Pantheon of the Hollowness, our final challenge. We give this a few tries, however, this will be our final achievement, so for now we put this aside and move on to our second task, the Hunter's Journals. The Hunter's Journal isn't required for 112%ing Hollow Knight, but it is an achievement. There's no way of checking which bug you've missed, so the only way to do this quest is to find a spreadsheet online and comparing your Hunter's Journal to the online one. After making our list of missing creatures, we begin the hunt. We start with Crystal Prowlers, which I thought couldn't be killed since they're immune to nail strikes, however spells work against them quite well. Next are the Light Seeds. We need 15 kills of these, and they only spawn during the broken vessel fight or in this location. We line up a strike for mass flies, and the randos can be killed from anywhere below their shell. Then we line up a fireball for their cousins, the randas. We hunt down one last husk guard and moss knight, then head through these secret walls to get Gom and Garpid. We track down these surprisingly rare mosskins. Sorry little guys. Then we found out we have surprisingly never tried killing these sporgs. After the mantis lore fight, the mantis has become our friend, so we were missing a few. We head over to the crystal peak to get a few crystallized husk. Carver hatchers spawns in groups in deep nest. Stalking the Velts can be killed from behind. The Mawlek took a while since I kept searching up Mawlek when looking for them. Then for our final journal entry, we head up this secret way to get a journal entry for the void tendrils. We head back to the hunter and was dropped down to our arena. We draw our nail ready for a fight, but the hunter simply raises his hands and gives us the hunter's mark. With that done, there's only one last thing to do on this game file, which we put to the side for a new game file. Our final tasks are the speedrunning Steel Soul achievements. These 3 achievements don't actually need to be done together, however, for the most efficient use of my time, I decided to do them together. Our goal here is to speedrun Steel Soul in under 5 hours, which snaps us 3 achievements. So we run past Elderbug and jump straight into the crossroads. For some reason, we chose to explore and save a grub before we rush towards the false knight. We rush past him, then to the snail shaman. We enter green path and hello Hornet, goodbye Hornet. We use this bug to perform a skip up to Hornet. Then in record's time we reach Hornet's arena. However, we got to pretty low HP, so we exit out the game and TP to our last bench. If this wasn't Steel Soul mode, we could have kept going, but Hornet is scary, so we defeat Hornet on our second run and obtain the dash. We make our way into the spore area and a skill issue really. Our next round we make it back to the Fog Canyon. This time we don't mess around and go straight to the mushroom fight for an extra charm. 5 hours is plenty of time for us to get these upgrades like charms, nail upgrades, or mask. Since this will also be our Steel Soul 100% file, taking some time lost here to collect these upgrades isn't a total waste of time. We make it to the Mantis village, getting ourselves the Mantis Claw, and with the dash this basically opens up the whole map for us. We also get ourselves a good bit of geo for our travels. While we're here we also fight the Mantis Lords, not because we had to, but because I really didn't know where to go from here. This turned out to be a pretty big time loss since I haven't fully adapted to not having all my endgame abilities yet. It all turned out fine as we get access to the Mantis treasures and most importantly the Mark of Pride charm, which we were struggling without since we got so used to the range increase. We buy our Lake Eater's shop since it's Steel Soul, then we battle the optional Soul Tyrant since I didn't know what to do next. We finally lock in here and rush for the Dream Nail, Slice Basement Key, Crystal Dash, Double Jump, and Isma's Tear. This was actually over a pretty long period of time since we're currently at 2 hours and 40 minutes right now. Not the best pace ever, we could be fighting the Hollow Knight right now if we were locked in from the start, but this is an okay pace to be at. We decided to get 2 nail upgrades for some of the upcoming bosses since some of them are pretty tough with the base nail. We need 3 pale ore, so we choose this one in the hidden station, this one on top of Crystal Peak, and this 300 essence seer reward which took way too long since we tried Soul Tyrant for like 30 minutes. It's all fine though since now we have the second best nail in game. With the upgraded nail we begin hunting down all the Dreamers locations. We defeat the Watcher Knights with this OP nail and this lantern drop. We dream nail the Dreamer and that's 1 down. Now here's where I realize how much I've been procrastinating in this damn speed run. We are 3 hours 50 minutes in and we got 2 more Dreamers to do and then the Hollow Knight. Almost a quick one, but the one in Deep Nest on the other hand, we haven't unlocked the stack station for it yet, so our schedule is actually more packed than it would look. So realizing our predicament, we rush towards the Deep Nest Dreamer first. We get here and do this secret jump, then Dream Nail the Dreamer, leaving us with 1 final Dreamer to go. We actually speedrun the Umu fight and Dream Nail the final Dreamer, unlocking the final battle. With the power of locking in, that all only took us 20 minutes, which gives us room for retries if this relatively easy boss gives us trouble. We should be fine here, but the fumble always happens at the finish line, so we stay vigilant. We enter the fight with Mark of Pride and Fragile Strength, which does bring much needed comfort. The actual fight, however, might have been a little overhyped since we've already defeated Pure Vessel once, which we do the same to the Hollow Knight, completing our speedrun. Then here is where our actual grind begins. We grind for 100% completion here of course, but there are 3 other objectives that we couldn't do on our main file. We quickly summon Grim and Howling Cliffs before coming back to this shack under Crystal Peak. This guy's name is Jin. In the base game it's someone else here who does something different, but Jin trades Rasset eggs for Geo, which is pretty nice. Geo isn't too important in Steel Soul since we don't need to get the unbreakable charms, however Sly and Salubra both have a good amount Mouth, charms, and or nail upgrades we should get, which aren't the cheapest things ever. We get Grimchild from Grim and max out our bank account before withdrawing it all with interest. We collect all the flames, finishing part 1 of Grim's quest. We collect the second sets of flames, and Grim wants to dance with us now, so we dance and he gives Grimchild back. We begin part 3, except not really, as we talk to this guy and return to where we summoned Grim originally. We slap the summoning altar again, skipping part 3 of Grim's quest, and also Nightmare King Grim, but it naps us an achievement. Back in Dirtmouth, the Grim troops are gone, along with Grimchild, but there's a new NPC called Nymph who gives you a replacement charm. We head to where Zod was having his 1v1 with the Fly, but it seems that the Fly has gotten the best of Zod. Sorry, good friend. We upgrade our nail a final time and sadly strike down the nailsmith. May you find a happier end in a different life. We ran around collecting charms and upgrades for the 100%, but didn't realize until we were almost done that we need to touch this tablet to show us the completion percentage, which by now is 96%. We were forced to do the flower quest again and don't worry, we got on the second try. I thought the game was bugging out here since it wasn't giving me the achievement for 100%ing the game, but I realized I had to get an ending to acquire the achievement, so we take down the Hollow Knight real quick and roll the credit, and now we're done with speedrunning. Now, this is the final segment of the video. We only have the 2 achievements left to unlock, both of which can simply be unlocked by us beating Pantheon 5. Pure completion, which we can get right now just by finding the Hollow Knight real quick, and Embrace the Void, which most people make whole videos on, which I understand why. Pantheon 5 is a 42 enemy boss rush with all the bosses of Hollow Knight, all of them being buffed, locked to their hardest phased, or reworked, or maybe even all 3, I don't even know at this point. I can't tell you exactly how long this took, but I have 20 some video recording of my whole Hollow Knight run up until now, and at least 4 to 5 of them are just Pantheon 5 run or just practice for it. And those are only the ones I've recorded. At one point I just had to stop recording since I was running out of storages. Anyways, that's enough complaining and it's time for Pantheon 5. Pantheon of the Hollowness. Pantheon 5 has all the past Pantheon battles and basically all the same order. To start off, we have 2 Vengefly Kings instead of just 1. This is Vengeance for Zod on the Steel Soul file. Next, we have Battle 10, Brewing Mollis, into Battle 11, Brothers Oro and Mato, which you have to respect or it kills the run pretty easily. Next is Battle 17, the Mantis Lords, except the Phase 2, Team Cherry thought it would be funny if you got jumped even harder, so here's 3 siblings doing some sibling bonding by jumping ya. It's a nice fight though if I'm being honest. Battle 19 Muru could take a few masses here, but it's a Dream Warrior fight, so just don't die here. Battle 22 Gillian, another Dream Warrior boss, does not need 1000 HP. He's not too hard of a fight, just kind of annoying to fight slowly with. What makes this fight a problem is the next fight, which is Battle 23 against Shio. Not too hard, but I kept rushing Gideon, so I often come into this fight with low HP. The next interesting battle is 28 God Tamer into 29 Grim. Not too hard of a fight honestly, but it's weird seeing these 2 difficult bosses of before be relatively easy now to deal with. Seeing Grim, however, also got me thinking that something was missing. Can't put my head on what it is though. 32 through 36 is very unfair. It goes from 6 Watcher Knights into Umu, which could get some chip damages off on you, then into Winged Nos, which is actual nightmare fuel, into Sly, and into Hornet Sentinel. To be fair, these 5 battles are sandwiched between 2 resting points, but still, Hornet into Sly and Pantheon 3 was already pretty tough, so they said let's add a Pantheon 4 boss and a never before seen boss into this combo of jumping. Thank you, Team Cherry. The next battle is 40 No Eyes into 41 Trader Lord. No Eyes was already pretty hard to beat without taking too much damage, but of course she gets a new arena that she can combo you in, and of course that damage giving boss is sitting in front of the speedy double damage boss. The battles surrounding them aren't a wash either, being 2 dream bosses. Coming up on the final 2 batches of Pantheon bosses, we start with Soul Tyrant, who's kind of a pushover. The most amount of damage he's done to me was honestly to my eyes. However, the next 4 bosses are unfair to say the least. Murkoff into Zot, into Failed Champion, and then Nightmare King Grim. I knew somebody was missing in this Pantheon. Ascended Murkoff is why we skipped talking about Murkoff in the base game so long ago. He has a spinning shield that constantly goes around him and random spawning blades. That is already kind of unfair because what do you mean random spawning? But this time you also don't get floors, so good luck. Then there's Zalt, which I so wish I would have just ignored on this file. I've had a lot of practice against insult, so I probably did better than others, but these two bosses aren't really run-ender bosses. They're here honestly just to make sure you have low mass going into the run-ender bosses. Failed Champion and Nightmare King Grim. Two double damage bosses, both with vastly different ways of avoiding their attacks. Get a bench after, which like, thanks I guess, but whoever came up with this batch of bosses, they deserve to be locked up honestly. Especially the man who made Ascended Markov. That man deserves death row. Now arriving at the final boss, it's of course Pure Vessel. Even better, this Pure Vessel has 250 more HP than the one we've battled before, because of course it does. We struggled here like we did with normal Pure Vessel, except even more so, since the challenge here isn't just the HP buff, but also the time and lag. What do I mean by this? Battling Pure Vessel and Pantheon 5 in general got me feeling very nostalgic for some reason. It's a familiar feeling, spending hours striking away at a game just to mess up at the end and needing to start over from the start. I struggled to remember what games this battle reminded me of until in one of my Pantheon runs where we reached Pure Vessel, it all rushed back to me at once. We were doing well, had a good rhythm down, dodging and chipping away at it until a sudden millisecond of lag gave Pure Vessel a hit on us. One hit is nothing in the grand scale of things, but then he landed another, and another, and another. That one hit of lag completely messed up my rhythm, which I remember now as the same feeling as battling Prime Console Radon from Elden Ring, when we would just frame drop and mess up the rhythm completely. However, the longer I suffered here, another 2 memory from even further back surfaced, from years when I was but a child just beginning to get into video games, Geometry Dash and Pokemon. It was that feeling of reaching 90% in a Geometry Dash level before dying and needing to start over because of a lag jump. Same feeling here in Pantheon 5. However, the stronger feeling that's been scratching at me was the experience of constantly running it back, like in my first ever Pokemon Elite Four run, Pokemon Platinum. It's that same feeling I had after defeating the Elite Four just to stand before a demon and struggle and ultimately faint and lose all progress. This Pantheon fight was so challenging, it brought back a childhood trauma, a memory of a demon that cannot be slayed. I know you hear the music, you know what I'm talking about. When I realized this fact, I actually felt my limbs go weak. This was an actual feeling of hopelessness. You don't really lose in a Pokemon game since Pokemon Centers. However, she sweeped me so many times when I was little, I just gave up the game. This wave of traumatic hopelessness did put me down for a few nights. However, the next morning and the mornings following that one, I realized something about this trauma. This wasn't a sign of failure or defeat. This was my redemption. In the past, this feeling got the best of me. I gave up, I couldn't do it. But now, I got this chance to redo things. A rare chance to finally face down this challenge and come out victorious. This is a chance for me to correct my mistakes from before, and we will come out this victorious. Defeating the Pure Vessel, we claim our victory. Except not yet. The light from above brings us to our final challenge of Hollow Knight, the Absolute Radiance. I'd like to say I was surprised by this, but I literally have the guide open on my second monitor. Surprises aside, we will need some preparation for this guy. We unlocked the practice for this guy, and it's time for our final training arc, Absolute Radiance. The Absolute Radiance, like any other upgraded bosses, has more HP and speed. The damage window got shorter, and the HP pool got bigger. Very balanced. The only other things that have changed are the 2 final phases. The climb up is longer, or at least it feels longer if I'm wrong. And after reaching the top, she's not just one tap anymore. She has one final phase. And the final phase is a constant orb barrage on these 2 tiny platforms while the Radiance teleports around. My preferred strategy is to stay on Radiance this whole time to maximize damage and to shorten the time in this phase. These fireballs actually despawn after they go off screen, so we abuse this mechanic as much as we can can. Additionally, we'll only have the amount of HP we had when we enter this phase, since there's no time for healing. This is why we try and abuse spell spamming when we can, and also that trick of only taking one massive damage when using Descending Dark off the map. Outside of just boss practice, we also develop a charm setup for this challenge. We have Unbreakable Strength, Quick Strikes, and Mark of Pride as our base charms, with the final two charm notches being flex charms, most likely Soul Catcher. However, in all these testing, I found one charm that worked well for the Pure Vessel, that being Sharp Shadow. It chips the HP of enemies when I dash through him, which is all I'm doing with Pure Vessels, and it increases the distance of my shade dash. Before, when I was dashing towards Pure Vessel, I said I was playing too aggressively. This is because of the shade dash cooldown. It resulted in me not having shade dash when I needed it, and me learning the wrong timing for dodging the boss, since normal dashes don't have iframes. Sharp Shadow fixed these problems in practice, since I know in my heart if I get hit while dashing with Sharp Shadow, it's because I got hit and not because of lag. And for its actual use case, it's more damage. It made me stop wanting to chase down Pure Vessel after every attack, since I already got a hit on him with the dash. How it helps with Absolute Radiance is with the light walls and repositioning, and also the final phase in the air. Having a longer dash distance ensures that I reach the Radiance when he teleports, keeping me in the air and off screen for even longer. The one problem with this is adapting for all the other bosses, since I've only been practicing Sharp Shadow with these two. Luckily, right before the Pure Vessel is a bench, so all works out well. After another week of practicing, we only have a 20% chance of actually beating Absolute Radiance, and that's not even counting the 50-50 chance we have the other bosses like Pure Vessel or Nightmare King Grim, or Murkoff. After a set of runs where I defeated the Absolute Radiance in practice, we headed out to the boss with random spawning attacks and no floor. But after that practice, we equipped our best charms and finally re-challenged the Pantheon. I'm gonna need a blessing for this or something. The early and mid-game bosses are really just there to tire you out till we reach Murkoff. I learned this afterwards, but nail arts are apparently pretty effective against this guy, but I couldn't confirm this information. We got past all the endgame bosses until Grim stops us before the Pure Vessel. He enters pufferfish mode once, then twice, then a final time before we got sniped down right before the end. Yeah, I got pretty butthurt about this. I got cocky and died. Not even to number 1 or 2 either. We died right before them. We run it in again, but this was so frustrating. You won't see this, but each Pantheon run up to Grim takes me about an hour or so. If we died anywhere before the end bosses, I wouldn't even be too mad, since we only wasted 30 or 40 minutes. Or heck, if we died to Pure Vessel and Absolute Radiance, that's fine, since they're the final boss. I can live with the fact that I died to them, but we died to Grim. Maybe this is weird, but I'm the type of person to either do something till completion, or I'll just not do them at all. So being killed right before the end by Grim is just... Wait a minute, did we just kill Grim? Alright, so no more sulking, we're back in this run. Midway into this run, OBS recording stopped recording audio, but we kept going till we made it to this bench. We swapped in Sharp Shadow and began our final standoff against the Pure Vessel. And like we practiced, we dodged around every attack. And because the audio for this battle was gone, I kept telling myself that it was alright for this run to end in failure. However, the only 2 hits we took from this boss were from the collisions we had with him before we... Now, this is a near perfect Pure Vessel run. Maybe it was from the lack of audio, or maybe the fact that in my heart, this run was done for already since the audio wasn't recording. Either way, reaching Absolute Radiance for the 2nd time, it brought back some of the panic. However, we kept playing aggressive since in my heart, I still accepted defeat because of the lack of audio. Well, that is until this phase where all the panic came rushing back. Aside from the rising stage being stress-inducing enough, I realized that this could be the end. So we reached the top with 4 massive health remaining and rushed to bring it down until one of his fireballs hit us and knocked us into the void. Once again, we lost hope, so we rushed at the Radiance for a final. Yes! And just like that, we're done with the game. I know there's some more content like the flower ending or the far lands, but those don't really concern me now. And like, I already took so long making this video that Silksong actually came out. Like, I beat this game back in April and then got sick while recording for this video, as you can probably tell by some parts of the video, but it's fine, it's all done now. If you enjoyed the video, please, you know, I'm not really good at this, so I think I'm gonna just go with some hot water and just relax with my friend. What, oh no, no, you did. Why would you, babies? What? Oh.